Dan, do you see anything from this film that you think is relevant to the conflicts we're experiencing now?
Yeah, I think it's clear that this shows how dangerous the profession is and was then. And in some ways, I think there's a moment in the film where they start attacking the journalists, and I think that is where we're coming to now. Journalists are in a very, very dangerous situation. Often they are the people being attacked when they're still just trying to tell the story and to do what these guys do. And I think one of the other things I like about this film is how realistic it was. I mean, I was in that bureau. It looks exactly the same in the film as it used to then in the 1990s. And I felt, so many of these films about journalism are a bit hokey, they're a bit Hollywoody. This is, to my mind, a very realistic portrayal of what the trade is. I mean, we saw it very much as a trade in those days. It wasn't a profession. There was nothing really glamorous about it. People came into the business just by kind of being apprentices and learning on the job, as Dan did, the hard way. And it's a very realistic portrayal of the daily life of covering a war like that in Somalia.
It was interesting for me to remember the technology we used to work with, where we would convert bathrooms into dark rooms and send photos on cylinders. I can still remember the smell of the chemicals.
We blew up that cylinder, by the way. They plugged it in something. We did that, and then it was poof, gone.
But for those of you who aren't journalists, I think because of what happened to Dan and his colleagues in Somalia and the also killings of journalists in Bosnia in the 1990s around the same time, there has been a change in the culture of journalism. It's much more safety-oriented now, for better or worse. News organizations tend to invest a lot more in trying to protect journalists, and there's also a movement afoot to create safer conditions for freelancers who often don't have the financial resources for things like hostile environment training and armored cars or even insurance for them. So I think the sacrifice of these young men, and they were very young, Dan especially, has slowly helped to change the thinking in journalism around safety and protecting in order to get the story. But
I have to say that right now journalists are threatened in other ways by being accused falsely of, as it were, fake news. So I think that's another area where you're really under terrible threat. Maybe even not as insidious as being killed, but certainly it's something that needs to be discussed.
Yeah, that is really true.